I've never seen a movie suffer from identity crisis as much as the 2008 superhero film Hancock. It started as a screenplay by Vincent No, yes, the Vincent No, called Tonight He Comes. You can find literally 99% of it online. Unfortunately, the second to last page is missing, which is important in the denouement, pardon my French. Akiva Goldsmith and Michael Mann, yes, the Michael Mann, got a hold of it, and it went through another pass at the hands of Vincent Gilligan, yes, the Vincent Gilligan. He was tasked to, quote, make the story more accessible. You'd think an Oedipal story about a kid getting urinated on by bullies might not resonate with audiences? Despite what must have been an especially Mephistophelian development hell for Tonight He Comes to morph into the movie we got, I didn't hate this movie as much as I thought I did. The first 54-ish minutes aren't bad. It offers a surprisingly fresh approach to what if Superman really existed, with how difficult it would be to stick a landing if you don't have a training manual, to dotting all your I's and crossing your T's, legally speaking, when saving someone's life. These are things you don't see too often in superhero stories, and I liked it. Then the movie loses me when we find out Charlize Theron has superpowers. I get the feeling somebody looked at what they had, which was an interesting concept they thought couldn't carry a feature-length film. But Unbreakable tackled the superhero genre in an interesting way by not really being a superhero film. It was a drama about a man on the verge of his family falling apart, and he just happens to have superpowers. Hancock could have been a bigger-scale version of that. Someone who's been fighting his inner demons, trying to save the world, and the world reacts by spitting in his face for 80 years, that is going to mess with the guy's mind. This world sucks. Doesn't matter if you're bulletproof. Having to face those nightmares without help would be rough, and that should be more than enough to sustain an hour-and-a-half runtime. We don't need these clowns attacking a hospital. We definitely don't need the confusing lore about gods/angels and how their powers do or don't work. This makes a compelling argument for the J.J. Abrams school of teasing mysteries for a disappointing answer later. I'd rather cling to the hope that maybe the answer will be satisfying and then be disappointed than be disappointed right out the gate. So how would I wrap up the movie? Charlize isn't Hancock's wife. She doesn't have superpowers. She does dislike Hancock for obvious reasons. He's reckless, and his presence could easily endanger her family. Maybe there's a scene where criminals target Ray's family because it's public knowledge Ray's trying to improve Hancock's public image. But even that isn't enough conflict to sustain the final act. At least not physical conflict. Most superhero stories are a man versus man story, and maybe have a little bit of man versus self thrown in too. Superman fights Zod, but also must come to terms with the fact that he can't be with the woman he loves. I am staunchly opposed to that notion when it comes to Superman. I don't see why he can't have a wife and save the world. But maybe that idea has some merit with Hancock. His identity is public knowledge. Even just being friends with this family nearly got them killed. But in his therapy sessions, privately to Ray, Hancock's been saying he's such a miserable cuss because he has nobody to share this burden with. Seems like he's darned if he does, darned if he doesn't. This all comes to a head with the politician who has been speaking out against Hancock since the beginning of the movie. At first, you think he has a very reasonable beef with the guy who is a danger to the whole city. But even as Hancock cleans up his image and is being a good superhero, this guy still hates Hancock and even doubles down on his rhetoric. He points to statistics that Hancock, even when he is trying to be a worthy protector, is a danger to us mere mortals. His presence attracts audacious criminals, natural disasters, etc. He even has data going back to before Hancock lost his memories, of events that experts say might not have happened if Hancock hadn't been there. This is obviously another punch in the gut for Hancock, and with how loudly the city is agreeing with this politician, Hancock thinks maybe he should just quietly retire. Of course, the crime rates shoot up, and one of Ray's colleagues secretly meets with Ray. I could lose my job for this, but that data was faked. Turns out, maybe a decade ago, Hancock had a trolley problem. Save this girl, or save the children. He made a tough call, did his best, and the girl didn't make it. She was this politician's daughter. That decision has stayed with Hancock ever since, pushing him further into the bottle. Yes, being alone for so long, watching anyone he dares to befriend grow old and die, that has done a number on him, but that's not what made him what he is at the start of the movie. It's the weight of no matter what I do, it isn't enough, something will go wrong, and others will suffer for it. Some big crime thing happens, Ray calls Hancock to tell him what he learned, and Hancock gets back in the game, and he even saves the politician. This guy's still not okay with Hancock, and he never will be. Hancock understands, and says he can never make up for what he failed to do, but if he gives up, many more like the daughter will die, and that blood will be on his hands too. Against his better judgment, the politician tells Hancock not all of the data he had was fake. Someone he doesn't doesn't know who, gave him intel on Hancock from before 1931. Hancock isn't sure what to think. Someone out there knows more about him than he does, but doesn't want him to know, and instead wanted someone to weaponize his past against him. And that you save for a sequel. I didn't mind what little mythology about this world the movie gave us. I just didn't think it fit in this movie. Save all of that for later, after you've established your hero and your tone. Charlize kept saying their kind were built. Is that literal, like the Eternals? Maybe their kind came from some super advanced society, like Atlantis. Maybe their kind is responsible for the destruction of Atlantis, either a superhuman civil war, or one of them feared what their kind would do to the world if he didn't put a stop to it. The villain of your sequel might be another of Hancock's kind. Maybe Hancock killed their lover, or maybe Hancock was their lover, but his devotion to these pathetic ants drove them apart, and now she won't stop until she's destroyed Hancock, body and soul. I think the mystery would be more interesting than any solid answers. You can tease what happened, but don't come right out and say all of it. This movie's biggest problem was trying to have its cake and eat it too. But if you stick to your initial premise and explore that more thoroughly, I think you can tease the mythology stuff later on. But what do you all think? Let me know, and I do these fix videos all the time, so check those out if you're interested. Until then,
I know tonight he comes. He's taking a swipe at rum. He gives me a reason, the light in my sight. Well, I know tonight